Your life now. Today we are going to start class 11th polity. Well, sorry, class 8th polity, not 11th. Class 8th polity. तुम लोग तो शौक पे आ जाओगे सर, अरे अचानक से 3 क्लास कहाँ गया. Class 8th polity we will start. Before we move forward, how many of you have seen my WhatsApp status today? It has been long. I've not been updating statuses for quite some time. I started it today, so just 9. Oh, 8. कुछ तो मैसेज किया. Oh, my status is pretty important. Like, I took this guarantee that if you're constantly reading my status, you will get decent marks in ethics and essays. So keep following those. Anyway, lower your hand, please. And those who have not saved my number, you will not probably get the screenshot because I have saved all of your numbers. So if you will save my number, you will receive the notifications about classes as well. And you can read some philosophy as well. 368481944 अगर किसी को अभी तक नहीं पता हो तो. Now about Gandhi, and we have discussed like those who are from anybody who was there on 2nd of October. Mansir has a very unique doubt. This is the doubt that coming across for the first time. Laptop is mandatory for UPSC preparation. क्या बोलते हैं जनता? Is laptop mandatory for UPSC preparation? Most of people are saying no. It's a interesting question. Like, what is one thing which is mandatory for UPSC? Like in terms of resources, which one resource is mandatory for UPSC? Internet, NCERT books. देखो, for very long mindset and focus. अच्छा ठीक है, I got your ideas. Mandatory is your determination. Resources helps, ठीक है. No matter what people are telling you, resources helps. If you have a good laptop, if you have good internet connection, if you have probably a writing pad means tab, if you have a tablet, all of these things helps. If you have a printer, things help. But even if you do not have these, you have to find the substitute of those. You have to put extra effort. You have to be ready for that thing to be done. ठीक है, बात समझ में आई. Like you are reading a PDF. It's quite easy, like comfortable to read on laptop, but difficult to read on phone. पढ़ तो दोनों में सकते हैं. I can read on my laptop for 10 hours continuously. Most of the time, I'm looking at my screen for at least 10 hours. And it's on phone, it's very difficult to do that. But today's discussion is about Gandhi. How many of you believe like Gandhi was a good man? At least a good man. Let's forget about anything else. ठीक ठाक आदमी था, बंदा ठीक था. I'm not asking much. बस इतना कि बंदा ठीक था. Today we are going to read Indian Constitution. So now we are slowly entering into the polity part. Till now we have been roaming around the periphery of how the system works and all. आज हम एक्चुअल कोर पॉलिटी में जा रहे हैं. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड सेकुलरिज्म. वी हैव अ कंप्लीट चैप्टर ऑन सेकुलरिज्म हियर, and then again we have a chapter in class 9th and 10th, and then we again have a chapter in class 11th. So secularism, pretty interesting topic. Today we will read about parliament. Again, it will be much more detailed than our previous discussions. How many seats, who get elected, how they get elected, what they do, what are the basic features and all. We'll be reading about how laws are made. Very, very interesting topic for anyone, not just UPSC aspirant, how laws are made. And then we will be reading about judiciary. What is criminal case? What is civil case? Which court can hear what? So, and then social justice and the marginalized. If you will see your UPSC syllabus, there are the key terms directly taken from UPSC syllabus, or UPSC has directly taken these terms. किस पेपर में है सोशल जस्टिस एंड मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटी? एनीवन? Yes, GS paper 2. A direct topic. वर्ड बाय वर्ड मैच कर जाएगा. ठीक है, ऐसे में यही लिखा है, सोशल जस्टिस इज द टॉपिक. इकोनॉमिक प्रेजेंस ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, वेलफेयर, पब्लिक फैसिलिटीज, लॉ एंड जस्टिस. सो काफी जो टॉपिक्स है नाउ, अब वो जैसे 6 और 7 के बुक्स में we were reading a lot of things which were stories and all, and we had to find out like a few facts from there. This book is now very, very factual, and each and every thing is going to contribute something to your pre and mains examination directly. So okay, now 100 is reached, so let's start our discussion with Gandhi. You know what I believe? To understand Gandhi, you can never understand Gandhi. If you will try to read him, if you will try to listen to some lectures or watch some discussion on Gandhi, you can never understand Gandhi. To be able to understand what Gandhism means, what Gandhi stands for, you have to live like Gandhi. Have anyone tried to live like Gandhi, even for a day? किसी ने कोशिश किया है यहाँ पे? Anything that Gandhi stood for and you tried that, okay, I will do this in my life. So I will tell you a personal story. And if you see my life, I'm kind of कि भाई मेरे पास जो है वो उस बंदे के कारण है. So I was in second year of my engineering, and I'm very allergic to smoking and drinking, specifically smoking, because it affects my health as well. And I don't like it. I feel suffocating. Even if someone had smoked in a room 10 days back, I feel कि यहाँ अभी कुछ ठीक नहीं है. So I shifted because in hostel, college hostel, everybody is smoking and drinking, so I can't control much. I shifted from the hostel to a PG with a group of friends, and I specifically told them, so I do not drink and smoke, and if I'm coming here, we have to at least abide by this basic rule that nobody will smoke or drink in this house. Okay, at least smoking. So they agreed कि ठीक है, because at that time they needed a room partner because they have to bear the bill. So I shifted. First year passed. Second year, in second year of college, students start getting a lot of ideas, and there are a lot of senior mentors teaching them कि अरे बियर नहीं पिया तो बॉडी कैसे बनेगी, and cigarette नहीं पिया तो. So one of my friend picked the habit, and initially I saw him smoking outside the house for once, and I said him कि like तू भी करने लगा ये, मत करो. But after a while he started smoking in the house. I got the smoke. Our rooms were separate, but the whole house we were only living. There was no room or anything. 5 or 6 rooms. We were all new students were living there. So I asked him कि भाई मत पियो. This was the contract or agreement that we had कि यहाँ नहीं पियेंगे. Instead कि मैं पीऊंगा, तुमको जो करना है कर लो. What option did I have? I'm also paying rent. He is also paying rent. The only option that I had, कि I leave the room, I start searching for some other room. है ना? That's the only option, right? So, but I had a good teacher. I started a hunger strike. I literally started a hunger strike. If you will not quit smoking, I will not eat anything. For the first day, everybody thought कि अरे मजाक कर रहा है, नहीं खाएगा, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है कि खाएगा नहीं. Whenever he will be hungry, he will eat. So we had a common kitchen. Maid used to come cook, and so first day everything which was cooked for me was thrown. So while throwing, they got to know कि अच्छा he has not eaten, but not a big deal. Second day, I didn't eat. Now friends started talking like, "Are seriously is not eating." On the second day night, I vomited in the main hall. Vomited a lot. Since I had not any food, I just vomited water, a lot of water, because I was just drinking water. So a lot of water. Now everybody got worried. कि भाई अब तो कुछ करना पड़ेगा. Now pressure techniques from both sides. Like तुम भी खा लो, उसको बोल दो यार बाहर जाके पी लेना, तुमको पीना ही है. तो if you wanna smoke, you smoke outside. And I was saying why you are so touchy about this, like everybody does this and you have made it an issue. Okay, so I want to talk to him. I said, see, if you are not gonna quit smoking, I'm gonna die, and that's the end. There's nothing in between. If I will die, then you will leave. So उसने ऐसे गुस्से गुस्से में तो कहते कि ठीक है तुम मर जाओ, मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, I will not leave. ऐसे कि ठीक है, okay, I will die. So it went on for 4 days. An undeclared agreement was made कि nobody will drink or smoke in this house ever again. That guy never smoked, and he doesn't smoke now also. He's a very good friend of mine. He's very thankful for what I did. And I'm very proud of what I did. After 4 days, I felt very weak. I started eating, but so you understand Gandhi when you practice what Gandhi has taught. Otherwise, nobody can teach you Gandhism. समझ में आई बात? I'm getting goosebumps again. Do you have that? Like you people judge Gandhi. Do you have that moral authority to judge that person? I cut my own hair. Those who are old students who have seen me, and I'm like this for now almost 7 8 years. I always shave my head. Always. Just like 6 6 7 साल से ऐसे ही हूँ. पता है तुम लोगों ने देखा भी है. You have the courage. It saves a lot of time. Why? It saves a lot of time. If I will keep hair, then I have to shampoo it and I have to comb it and I have to get ready for the. If I would have hairs, I would have to get ready for this class. बालने में I'm always ready for the class. I can just come and start teaching. तुमको पता नहीं चल रहा है कि मैं सो के उठा हूँ कि नहा के आया हूँ कि क्या. I'm ready, fresh, and saves a lot of time. मुझे सलून में जाके 1 घंटा वेट नहीं करना पड़ता है. मुझे जब बढ़ जाता है मैं 10 मिनट में सेव कर लेता हूँ अपना हेड को. And I don't have to get validity from someone कि आज तुम्हारे बाल अच्छे लग रहे हैं क्या. हाँ, खुद से सेव करता हूँ. तुम लोगों ने जो ओल्ड स्टूडेंट है, दे हैव सीन इट मल्टीपल टाइम. आई सेव माय ओन हेयर. गांधी. हाँ, वैसे ही तो कहते कि सर आपका बाल देख के मैं पता करती हूँ कौन सा क्लास कैसे चल रहा है. तो ऑल थैंक्स टू गांधी. So before judging him, yeah, good saves money, saves time. A lot of things are saved. It saves a lot of distraction. When you have a very good hair, now you look at the people. People are noticing you or not. When you don't have the hair, you are bald. You know कि nobody is looking. मैं बहुत खराब दिख रहा हूँ. मुझे कोई देखने वाला नहीं है. अपना काम करो. I've seen this image to some of the old students. I think it's again the time that you should see this. This is me in my room, and this is how I used to sleep throughout my student life. And even after when I started preparing and all, and even today, if I get the opportunity, my house nobody will allow me to sleep like this. Babuji गुस्सा हो जाता है, but I sleep like this on the floor. I sleep like this on the floor because there are people who are sleeping like this on the floor. And you can understand their pain only when you suffer that pain yourself. In your cozy, comfortable rooms, you will never understand that what it means to sleep on the floor, how difficult it is. By the way, this is me here. And this is something that we used to do, and now my juniors do. And this is the foundation that I started during my college years. It's a cloth donation camp. I will talk about this later sometime. Yes, winter maybe. That's the picture of a winter actually, Deepak. That's not a picture of summer. So, oh, Deepika. Oh, Deepika. Sorry. So, read about Gandhi. That's a sincere request. Read about him before judging him. And about Sarath question about historical background and all, why he did what he did. I think we had an elaborate discussion a week before in the and modern history classes. So Sarath, just wait for it. And if you are interested, you can read Vipin Chandra, or you can read any history book, and you will understand why he did what he did. You just read. The best thing is that Gandhi has documented a lot. So whatever he has done, he has written about it. Why he is doing that. He's a very controversial person. I'm not saying that I'm a like blind follower of कि चलो गांधी है. बट गांधी ने जो किया है उसको तुम तभी समझ सकते हो जब तुम वो करोगे. विदाउट प्रैक्टिसिंग विदाउट प्रैक्टिसिंग नॉन वायलेंस यू विल नॉट अंडरस्टैंड कि हाउ मच पावरफुल नॉन वायलेंस इज. इफ यू हैव रेड टुडेस स्टेटस, गांधी से पूछा गया कि what one quality in the person you value most, and he said courage, because non-violence takes a lot of courage. Non-violence is not, and fortunately we have to read, so don't worry. uh, and your question, Sarath has also asked me a supplementary question, that Gita says ki only war can protect us from war. So thankfully in class 11th polity book we have a separate chapter on war and peace. पूरा पीस पे एक चैप्टर ही है, and we will read about that. We will have detailed discussion because those chapters are really helpful in writing essays, really, and they will change your life and thinking. So just wait for it. We will spend quite substantive time on the political theory book. Now I think you get some idea. You start reading, and बाकी तो और भी बात करने के लिए बहुत कुछ है. लेकिन आज पढ़ाई अब स्टार्ट करते हैं. बहुत लोग बोर हो रहे होंगे कि क्या ही चल रहा है, पढ़ने आए हैं, टाइम कम है. See, the first two chapters here we will try to cover in the next 1.5 hours, and then in the second part we will meet again at 3 p.m. on the same link. So those who do not know, this happens like this. कुछ लोग छोड़ के जाते हैं फिर वापस नहीं आते हैं. So this class will continue till 2 p.m. and then we will have a break of 1 hour, and then you will be coming back at 3 using the same link, and then we will discuss about or read about parliament. क्लियर? स्टार्ट किया जाए. So the question here, by the way, how many of you are feminists now? We discussed last day. So now how many of you have, like, कितने लोगों का परसेप्शन थोड़ा चेंज हुआ कल के क्लास के बाद से? एक्चुअली वी नीड more feminists, not anti anti feminist people. थोड़ा चेंज हुआ, थोड़ा और चेंज होगा. Those who were already in the camp वो तो ठीक है, but कितने लोगों का चेंज हुआ कि no, I was thinking something wrong and like I'm thinking in the opposite direction and now I think I should be more considerate. ठीक है. आज स्टार्ट करते हैं. किरण बात करेंगे आपकी भी बात पे. Have you ever wondered why we need a constitution or been curious about how constitution got written or who wrote it? So the questions for us are why we need constitution. Questions, this the same question can be asked in mains, it's such a silly and small question, but the question can directly be asked in mains, why do we need a constitution? And compare, the question can be compare the constitution of India and USA by referring or by mentioning that why do we need the constitution. और उस समय माथा खुजलाओगे कि अरे ये तो सोचा ही नहीं था, सारा प्रोविजन याद है बट पता नहीं कि why do we need a constitution. So why we need a constitution, or when curious about how the constitution got written or who wrote it. And in the later part we will discuss about key features of Indian constitution. So those who have read history with me, उनके लिए आसान होगा, but those who have not read, just wait for these things. See, when you start reading Lakshmikant, you must take this in note. Chapter 1 or 2 नहीं पढ़ना है. You must not start reading Lakshmikant from chapter number 1 and 2. Anybody tried reading Lakshmikant from chapter 1 and 2? How was the feeling? कैसा लगा पढ़ के चैप्टर नंबर 1 और 2? लगा होगा कि बस बंद कर दे लक्ष्मीकांत भाई, अब नहीं पढ़ना है इसको, ऐसा वाला फीलिंग आ रहा था? आज के बाद लक्ष्मीकांत नहीं पढ़ेंगे. So never start reading Lakshmikant with chapter number 1 and 2. If you want to read Lakshmikant, to start with chapter number 3. Okay. Why chapter number 1 and 2 will be boring? Because that's historical background. Now, when you do not know the history, mere following of the facts and all is very difficult and to understand. So skip chapter number 1 and 2. When you complete your modern history, then you come back and read chapter number 1 and 2 and it will be a smooth walk. Okay. So we will be discussing a little bit of background कि कैसे constitution क्या हुआ. So in 1934, Indian National Congress made the demand for a constituent assembly. So for the first time, question आ सकता है कि when for the first time Indian National Congress made the demand for a constituent assembly. Now, India was not independent. India was colonized by Britishers. But for many of you who do not know the history, or those who have done the history classes, we have read that our independence struggle was not like on one particular day, Britishers said, ki, now I am defeated and now I'm leaving your country. It was a gradual process. Every year we get a little more concession from the Britishers. We gained a little more right, a little more right, a little more right. And then finally it culminated into independence. Okay, for many times we had this idea that we were constantly fighting like a battle, and finally one day they thought that now I'm defeated, I'm going back. So it was not like that. In 1934, Indian National Congress demanded that we need our own constituent assembly so that we can make our own constitution. Before this, also, there were rules and laws in India. Those rules and laws were made by British Parliament for Indians. Okay? Or were made by the governors and all, like people appointed or selected by the Britishers were making the law. In 1934, Congress said, now we want our own constituent assembly and we will write our own constitution. What we think we need for this country and what we think we do not need for this country, we will decide. इसको एक और वर्ड क्या यूज करते हैं? सेल्फ डिटर्मिनेशन. We will decide. We will decide कि हम क्या करेंगे. So this happened in 1934. During the Second World War, this assertion for independent constituent assembly formed only of the Indians gained momentum, and this was conveyed in December 1946. क्या हुआ पायल? So Second World War, when did it happen? Ankita, you want to ask anything or it's like पहले कहाँ टूटा हुआ है? वर्ल्ड वॉर कब हुआ? सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर 1930. Second where he not falls. 1939 to 1945. Okay, good. So during the Second World War, Indians started asking with much more force, now we need our constituent assembly, and that should be made only of the Indians. When we'll read history, we will read that Britishers finally agreed in around 1940. They agreed कि okay, we will give you a constituent assembly. In 1934 se we started demanding. In 1940 they said कि okay, I will give you a constituent assembly. But then they realized कि ये जो constituent assembly है, at this time they said कि this constituent assembly will have both Indians as well as Britishers. But Indians were saying, or Indian freedom fighters were saying at that time, that we need a constituent assembly that should be made only of the Indians, because we do not want any external interference in our constituent assembly. So finally, in December 1946, the Britishers finally said, they passed a law and they said, okay, India will have its own constituent assembly. दिसंबर में. So यहाँ से एक constituent assembly बनती है. Constituent assembly, okay, I'm telling this word again and again, constituent assembly. All of you are aware what Constituent Assembly means? No. See, Constituent Assembly is an assembly, a group of people, like assembly you understand. So this is assembly which will meet to write the constitution. इनिशियली कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जब लिखा जा रहा था तो जो लोग आए थे लिखने के लिए तो उनको कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली बोलते थे, पीपल हु वर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर राइटिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. सो दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली was formed, which will have only Indian members who will decide or who will write the constitution for India. This is a picture of Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly. It's like Parliament of it's like today's Parliament where they make laws, but Parliament make a few laws, one or two laws here and there, few changes. Constituent Assembly write the laws from the scratch or write the constitution from the scratch. बिगिनिंग से क्या होगा कैसा होगा वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली का काम है. सो फ्रॉम दिसंबर 1946 टू नवंबर 1949, अबाउट, कुछ लोगों को तो अच्छे से याद होगा, 2 years 11 months. कितना टाइम लगा? हाउ मच टाइम इट टुक फॉर इंडियंस टू मेक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन? 18 days. रस्में कह रही है 17 days. अपन ना कह रहे, अब 17-18 के चक्कर में सिर नहीं फोड़ना है. आई थिंक इट्स 18. ओके किरण, वी विल टॉक अबाउट दिस, डोंट वरी, अभी बहुत आगे है वो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर एंड ऑल. सो 2 years 11 months and 18 days it took to write the constitution. So they started in December 1946 and on November 1949 finally the draft of the Constitution of India was written. क्या कहते हैं? Constituent Assembly approached this task with great idealism that freedom struggle had produced once. People at this time, you will see, no matter from what like party they belong to or what kind of politics they have, they are very they are following ideals, they have ideologies, they believe, they all of them have their core beliefs and they think this is going to make a better India. So इस आइडियलिज्म के साथ ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनता है. आगे आते हैं, क्या कहते हैं कि इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी दैट ऑल कंट्रीज दैट हैव अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आर डेमोक्रेटिक. आज के टाइम में almost all the countries have a constitution. Almost all the countries have constitution. But does constitution mean that a country will be democratic? No. Why? Let's take example of China. China also has a constitution. They have also written that only this person can do this and this thing will happen. There are laws in that also. But the constitution itself is not democratic. Even North Korea and Saudi Arabia has their constitutions written, but the constitution itself is not democratic. So do not never make this mistake of calling if a country has constitution, it is democratic. But what are the purposes of the constitution? This is important. So the first purpose of the constitution, that it lays down certain ideals that form the basis of the kind of country that we as a citizen aspires to live in. So as a country, what kind of ideas, what kind of values we prefer? Unnecessary comment mat karo. So where I was. So it lays down certain principles. So क्या कह सकते हैं कि a constitution includes not only the type of government but also an agreement on certain ideals that they all believe the country should uphold. पहले तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ये बताएगा कि which kind of government there will be. So like Indian constitution says that there should be a democratic government. British government says, or British constitution says that there will be a monarchy. हमने लास्ट क्लास में डिस्कस किया था कि मोनार्की क्या होता है. So in Britain they still follow monarchic system. So they do not have the president. The queen is the head of the country. Although the power is very less, but still UK is a, क्या बोलते हैं, UK is a constitutional monarchy. ठीक है, UK is a constitutional monarchy. UK is United Kingdom. India is a constitutional democracy. China has a constitution, but that constitution suggests a communist government, not a democratic government. So type of government and certain ideals. ये आइडियल्स का क्या है, एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल है यहाँ पे. यू शुड रीड अबाउट दिस. नेपाल इज ऑलवेज इन न्यूज. देखो नेपाल में क्या होता है. लास्ट टाइम व्हेन वी वर डिस्कसिंग दिस वाज इन न्यूज अ लॉट. सो in Nepal, if I give you a brief background of what happened in Nepal, by around the time when we got our independence, in Nepal also there was a rise of democratic ideals. उनको भी लगा कि we will also get democracy, but their democracy could not sustain for long, and around 1960s, the democratic setup was toppled and the monarchy, the king, established its rule, and it ruled for about 30 years. And they ruled with a very heavy hand. Heavy hand का मतलब क्या होता है? They crushed all these democratic feelings, all the political leaders and all. But slowly, again in 1990, people again started asking for in democracy. A wave against monarchy again started. And after a long struggle that lasted for 12 years until 2002, King Gyanendra, citing the Maoist uprising in the country as a reason, began taking over different aspects of the government with the army's assistance. In 90s के बाद 12 years तक ये struggle चलता रहा. In 2002, King Gyanendra said that there are people who are trying to hurt the country. The people who are terrorists or like that, those who were protesting, he thought that now he's going to lose his power. So he imposed an emergency again. He took the help of army and started destroying or capturing, killing, sentencing the political activists. But this time the opposition was much more fierce. And finally in 2005, he has to leave the throne. Very bloody wars used to happen in Nepal at that time. In 2005, Maoists joined the political parties to sign 12-point agreement. Many of you may not be knowing what is Maoist. Don't worry, we will discuss about all these in detail later. Maoists are somebody who believe in communist ideas. Communist ideas are, मैं बहुत simplify कर रहा हूँ, this thing takes hours to explain. But communist ideas are that everybody should have equal property. There should be, like, nobody should be owning anything. Everybody should be equal in terms of wealth. should be only public property. Everything that is there should be owned by the public, government. No private property. No rich, no poor. सबको बराबर डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करो. So they are anti-rich, pro-poor people, but they use violent methods. मतलब अमीर का लूट लो ऐसा वाला, with the help of gun or whatever. So माओइस्ट एक मूवमेंट वहां चल रहा था, which were very violent. But then in 2005 they left their violent means. They joined the political parties there and formed a government. Now this is the start of democracy in Nepal. So it repeatedly refused the small concession that King made. Finally, in April 2006, King restored the third parliament and asked the political parties to form a government. So 2006 में क्या होता है finally? एक गवर्नमेंट बन जाती है, ये माओइस्ट और बाकी जितनी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं वो मिलके. नाउ व्हेन पॉलिटिकल पार्टी हैज बीन फॉर्म्ड, you need a new constitution. Why do you need a new constitution? Because till now king was the constitution. He was doing whatever he thought. But when you are going to abolish the monarchy and establishing a democracy, your ideals have changed. The way the way country functions, that has changed, and for that you need new constitution. So in 2008 they started writing their constitution. That constitution was not written well. There were many problems in that constitution. So again in 2015, which is not given in this book, दिया है क्या करके, यहां देखो. As in a game of football, in which a change in the consecutive rules will change the game altogether, Nepal, by moving from monarchy to democratic government, needs to change all its consecutive rules in order to usher in a new society. अगर किसी भी गेम में अगर रूल ऑफ गेम चेंज कर दिया जाए, so the winners will start losing and losers will start winning. पूरा गेम चेंज हो सकता है. वैसे ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन काम करता है. It redefines the rules of the game. And at this time we saw that this new constitution which was made, it was not helping all the people, and many people said it's discriminatory for them. So they said, okay, we will write a new constitution. So people of Nepal adopted a new constitution for the country in 2015. तो ये तो उन्होंने अडॉप्ट किया था, फिर उसके बाद उसमें चेंज आया. तो इस अभी 2015 वाले कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में भी बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, वो किसी और क्लास में डिस्कस करेंगे. वी हैव रेड दैट इन आईआर क्लास, बट किसी और क्लास में कभी मौका मिला तो वी विल गो इन दैट डिटेल. बट द की मैसेज हियर इज व्हेन द आइडियाज ऑफ द कंट्री चेंजेस, इट नीड्स न्यू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. है ना? ये मैसेज समझ में आया कि इफ कंट्री विल स्टार्ट थिंकिंग differently than its past, it will need a constitution or a new constitution. The second idea, it defines the nature of country's political system. Country में कैसा political system हो, how the political machinery will function, that will be decided here. Like in Nepal, which was earlier ruled by the king and his ministers, they were ousted and a system was set up. But just democracy is not sufficient, because in democracy there is always a risk that the people who you have elected, they might misuse their authority, and the constitution they might misuse their authority. यहाँ पे एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल दिया है. That's the beauty of NCERT. A boy has been elected as the class monitor. Now he wants to settle his score with another student. So no matter what he's doing, he complains falsely to the teacher, and this innocent student is punished. So, giving the power to someone always comes with this risk that that person can misuse the power. In the same way, in our country, we are giving power to the politicians, we are giving power to the police, we are giving power to the administrative staffs. And we need a system to check this power. Constitution usually provides the safeguard against misuse of the authority. Now, another important function of the constitution is to ensure that a dominant group does not use its power against others less powerful group or people. Again, it's a very beautiful example. On a playground, these boys are playing, girls are also playing, but boys are more powerful. So when they come, they said, "Ki khali karo abhi," and now we will play. And girls are like forced to leave the playground. Similar thing can happen in a country. A dominant group can ask a less dominant group, less powerful group, to do whatever they want them to do. Constitution provides a safeguard against this. बहुत अच्छे words use किए हैं. You must use this word, the tyranny of the majority. Now, I often come across these arguments. People say that India has 80% Hindus and democracy means the rule of majority. So why can't we make the laws that we like? Why can't we live the way that we want to live? Like that's what it means, the rule of majority, है ना? 80% लोग अपना बात क्यों नहीं मनवा रहे? What's the problem in this? क्या प्रॉब्लम है? होना यही चाहिए ना कि भाई जो मेजोरिटी है उसकी बात चलनी चाहिए. नहीं चलनी चाहिए. साई saying I have a doubt. साई चरण क्या डाउट है? So, but how does I Brinda is saying that the opinions of minorities will get breached. But why do you need to listen to the opinions of minorities? How do we decide everything? We decide things by getting majority of the votes. So if the majority is saying that India should be like this, then it should be like that. Constitution usually contains rules that ensures that minorities are not excluded from anything that is routinely available to the majority. Constitution क्या इंश्योर करता है कि anything which is routinely available to the majority should also be available to the minority. So one of the functions of the constitution is to prevent tyranny of the majority. Now, ये क्या होता है ना, when we think about कि the majority's opinion should be heard, listened or followed, we kind of think of ourselves as majority. और हमको लगता है कि हम तो हमेशा मेजोरिटी में रहेंगे. Let's think that a few handful of rich people in India decides. रिच पीपल ये तो उल्टा एग्जाम्पल हो गया. मेजोरिटी is a very shifting thing, you are not always in majority, that you should understand. Like in a school, you are in one class, like you are in 10th class maybe, और बाकी नीचे वाले सारे एक साथ हैं, हो सकता है कि वो सारे एक साथ हो जाए और आप अलग हो जाओ, आपके क्लास का ओपिनियन कुछ अलग हो. इन दैट सिचुएशन व्हाट डू यू वांट, लाइक कि ठीक है हमारा कुछ नहीं सुना जाए फिर भी चलेगा, और यू वांट पीपल टू कि नहीं आपकी भी ओपिनियन सुनी जाए. At some places we are always minority. In the religion, you may be religion wise, you will maybe the majority. But if you think caste wise, you may be in the minority, no, in the minority number. Number wise, like sex gender ratio, you may be minority. तो इंडिया में क्या बोलोगे कि भाई since the population of male is more than population of women, so let's just talk about males. All the rules should follow males. नहीं करेंगे ना ऐसा. The third significant reason why we need a constitution is to save us from ourselves. This is very funny and important. Yeah, sometimes we do the things which can hurt ourselves. Like some people in our country may think that we do not need secularism in our constitution. So let's get rid of secularism. But our constitution make us know that by this, if you will get rid of secularism, it will hurt the country. So the constitution make it sure that you cannot easily get rid of things versus going to hurt the country in long run. So constitution saves us from ourselves. क्या करता है? It does not allow the easy overthrow of the provisions that guarantee rights of citizens and protect them from freedom. The Indian Constitution, the key features. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के फीचर्स क्या क्या है? बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट एक्सरसाइज है. देखो हमारा जो एक्सपीरियंस था ऑथोरिटेरियनिज्म के अगेंस्ट, our freedom struggle in a way made us ready that we need a participative government, we need democracy. That was well settled. So when we got independence, there was no discussion ki do we need democracy or do we need monarchy or do we need to bring Mughal Raj back. Everybody was settled ki democracy chahiye, because this is what they were fighting for. So what are the basic features of Indian Constitution? Direct question आता है. You will read, there is a complete chapter in Lakshmikant. You go and read that chapter. हम यहाँ पे discuss करते हैं. Federalism. I remember when we had started this NCERT class, one of the student called me once and said, "Sir, I have taken admission in a coaching and they have started the classes and teacher comes and every day he tells कि federalism आया है, federalism आया है." But sir, I don't know what federalism is. How can I understand the class? And I think that's where our NCERT classes come into the picture. So what is federalism? This refers to the existence of more than one level of government in the country. We have discussed this before also. हमने देखा ना, in our country we have 3 level of governments: center, state and panchayati raj, or third tier local government. Now these 3 governments are not subservient to each other. They are not junior. ऐसा नहीं है कि state government is junior or a servant or acting on the command of state government, or it's not like कि panchayati raj is acting on the command of state government. We'll read about this in detail. But ये तीनों institution अपने आप में अलग अलग हैं and all of them have their own pre-decided power. That's why that's the meaning of federalism. Simple one line definition है. You should try to memorize this, very easy and effective. existence of more than one level of government. So the same people, you live in a village, you have three governments over you. First, your local panchayat, then the state, and then the center. And all these three governments can make laws for you. तो जरूरी नहीं है हमेशा कि थ्री हो. इन सम अदर कंट्रीज यू विल फाइंड कि देयर आर टू ऑल्सो. बट हमेशा मोर देन वन लेवल होना चाहिए. दैट्स द डेफिनेशन ऑफ फेडरलिज्म. तो व्हाई डू वी नीड फेडरलिज्म? दैट्स द क्वेश्चन. चाहिए क्यों? Why do we need federalism? Anyone? Yes, Aparna, right. There are different communities, vast number of communities, different kind of people living in our country. You see, so much diversity is there in our country. Northeast people, they have their own style of living, their own cultural values, their own language. UP itself is so much unique and so much diverse. बुंदेलखंड में लोग बुंदेलखंडी समझ रहे हैं, इधर भोजपुरी समझ रहे हैं, इधर अवधी समझ रहे हैं, इधर खड़ी बोली समझ रहे हैं. If so, UP is diverse, South India is so diverse. If there is only one central government which start dictating, making same kind of laws for all these people, do you feel it would be good? If government started giving, just think about one small thing, festivals in our country. If there is only one central government and they decided that they will give leave on the occasion of, they have two options: either they give leave on all festivals for all communities, or they give leave for none. मान लो सबका बोलते हैं कि चलो वी विल गिव लीव फॉर एवरीवन. आई थिंक इन इंडिया वी वुड हैव एटलीस्ट 300 डेज ऑफ लीव. बिकॉज किसी ना किसी दिन कोई ना कोई सेलिब्रेट कर रहा है, किसी ना किसी दिन किसी ना किसी स्टेट में छुट्टी है. So because it's so diverse, then states come into picture. So it may happen that on certain day in Karnataka, when people are celebrating Karnagi culture or the formation of their state and all, they can have their own leave. Rest of India is working fine. On Veer Kuwar Singh Jayanti, Bihar can have leave, but rest of India is not worried कि Veer Kuwar Singh कौन थे. So this is why we need decentralization. We need federalism. Different government ruling at different levels. Similarly, you can think of third tier government. जैसे हमने यहाँ देखा कि यूपी is so diverse. अब यूपी गवर्नमेंट सिर्फ अपने सारे प्रोविजंस निकालने लगे हिंदी या उर्दू में. So a person living in Bundelkhand will not understand ki what the government orders means. So they need a third tier they need a third tier which can deliver the message effectively in Bundelkhandi or Bundeli. So with constitution, now just having three tier of government is not sufficient. Three tier government बना दिया, but if state government has no power or no money, it will always be dependent upon the center. So even though there is a state government, they can only do what center is saying. So this is not true federalism, right? So what our constitution has done, Constitution also specifies where each tier of government can get their money from for the work that it has to do. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में स्पेसिफिकली लिखा है कि वेयर सेंटर विल गेट मनी, how what kind of taxes center can collect, what kind of taxes state can collect. These things are clearly mentioned here. So under federalism, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन है, इसको याद रखो. अंडर फेडरलिज्म स्टेट आर नॉट merely agents of the federal government but draw their autonomy from the constitution as well. ये उसका एजेंट नहीं है. स्टेट गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट सिटिंग देयर कि जो भी सेंटर बोलेगा हम वो करेंगे. दे हैव देयर ओन ऑटोनॉमी. The Constitution of India guarantees universal adult suffrage or universal adult franchise for all people. We have discussed this. This means that people of India have a direct role in electing their representatives. The third thing is separation of power. क्या क्या पढ़ लिया हमने? अच्छा ये सॉरी ये मिस कर गया ना, पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. सेकेंड फीचर इज पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. ये हाईलाइटेड क्यों नहीं है, गलती से छूट गया. सो इन आवर कंट्री वी फॉलो parliamentary form of government. What is meant by parliamentary form of government? People will elect their representatives like MPs or MLAs, and then these MPs and MLAs will rule or will make laws for them. Parliamentary form of government hai. We will read more about parliament. The third important feature is separation of power. We have discussed about this, how in our country we have three organs: legislature, executive, and judiciary. And this separation of power prevent the misuse of the power by any one branch. ऐसा पुलिस वाला चाहे कि किसी को भी अरेस्ट करके और प्रोसिक्यूट कर दे, they cannot do this because there is a check and balance from judiciary. So anyone cannot misuse their power. That's the main purpose of separation of power. We have discussed this in great detail. We have also discussed that all of this works on a principle of check and balance. So each organ keep a check and order, and this ensures that balance of power is maintained between all the three. इसमें से कोई भी ज्यादा, if I ask you who is more powerful, nobody is more powerful. There is a balance of power. There are certain things that if legislative will try, judiciary will say no, you cannot do this. If judiciary will try, legislative will say you cannot do this. If executive will do, both of them can say you cannot do this. And if they are passing some law and executive is not implementing, तो इनके लॉ का और या इनके जजमेंट का कोई वैल्यू नहीं है. So all of them stand at an equal footing, balance of power. Nobody is more or less, everybody is controlling each other. We will have further detailed discussion about this, so परेशान नहीं होना है. ये बहुत ही मजेदार चीज है. For many of you it will be very very new. क्या होता है देखो, अब जब लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ रहे होगे तो बार बार एक टर्म आता है, स्टेट. Now we often confuse state with state government like UP, Bihar, वगैरह वगैरह. But make it a habit. In polity, state doesn't mean state government. Does not refer to state government. Rather, state means government. We use state when we are distinguishing it from the government. इसको जब गवर्नमेंट से अलग करके दिखाना है तो हम स्टेट बोलते हैं. जैसे कि देखो, if I'm telling कि government has not passed a bill or government is corrupt, हम बोलते हैं government is corrupt. When I'm saying कि government is corrupt, I mean the political party in power, the administrative system, the executive system, which is run by them, the officers and all who are under control of these political executives. The government is responsible for administrating and enforcing of the laws. गवर्नमेंट कीप चेंजिंग, क्या बोलते हैं, इस बार सरकार बदल जाएगी, अब की बार मोदी सरकार. सो गवर्नमेंट कीप चेंजिंग, न्यू पीपल विल कम एंड अदर पीपल विल गो आउट. सो गवर्नमेंट कीप चेंजिंग. But state is a political institution that represent the sovereign people who occupy a definite territory. इस बार एक क्वेश्चन आया था प्रीलिम्स में इसके ऊपर, सीधा क्वेश्चन आया था, डायरेक्ट लाइन. एकदम एग्जैक्ट 2021 में. स्टेट का मतलब क्या है? सिंपल क्वेश्चन है, विच इज द बेस्ट डेफिनेशन ऑफ स्टेट, और उसमें ये वाला लाइन था. और उस समय मुझे ध्यान ही नहीं आया कि डायरेक्ट लाइन है. अभी मैं आई एम रीडिंग इट नाउ एंड आई नाउ आई कैन रिलेट इट्स डायरेक्ट लाइन. आई एम लाइक, अरे मुझे बहुत अभी वो थ्रिलिंग एक्सपीरियंस हो रहा है. You check 2021 paper. So direct line quoted. There's a direct line quoted from this book in 2021 prelims. अब बताओ तुमको क्लास 8 का पॉलिटी बुक पढ़ना चाहिए नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए? And many people had made a lot of mistake in this. This was one of the most debated question in 2021 prelims. See what could be the best. Yeah. Divya is saying including me. A simple question was asked, what is the definition of state? So state, on the other hand, refers to the political institution that represents a sovereign people who occupy a definite territory. State का मतलब क्या है? Sovereign people हो. अरे यार मुझे बहुत मतलब मुझे लग रहा है कि I announce this to the world कि NCERT has asked a question from class 8 polity book. People were citing so many references कि देखो इस किताब में आया है, उस किताब में आया है. And UPSC has made fool of everyone. This is asking from class 8 NCERT. लोग बड़े बड़े प्रोफेसर्स और फिलोसफर्स की बुक निकाल रहे हैं कि व्हाट इज स्टेट. स्टेट ऑन द अदर हैंड refers to political institution. जब हम when we say state, state doesn't change. स्टेट एक पॉलिटिकल इंस्टीट्यूशन है. जैसे कि तुम्हारा स्कूल एक इंस्टीट्यूशन है, वैसे ही स्टेट एक पॉलिटिकल इंस्टीट्यूशन है. स्टेट तुम्हारा एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन है. स्टेट पॉलिटिकल इंस्टीट्यूशन है that represents a sovereign people. Sovereign people is the people who take their own decision. There is no one above them to control. स्वयं आजाद हैं आप, आपके ऊपर किसी का रूल नहीं है. आई एम सोवरन. एक बार डेफिनेशन देख लो. सोवरन in this context refers to an independent people. So sovereign people state, on the other hand, refers to the political institution that represent a sovereign people, people who are independent. Like when we were not independent, we were not sovereign because Britishers were making rule for us. But now we make our own rule. So we are independent. So it represents a sovereign people who occupy a definite territory. जैसे हम, we live in a definite territory called India and we make our own laws. So ये पूरा जो इंडिया है, इसके अंदर जितना कुछ भी है, all the machinery, the constitution, the government, the legislative, judiciary, executive, कर्मचारी से लेके और ऊपर तक, everybody is a part of state. So when we say India as a state, we mean everything, the geographical boundary, and everything. So यह कहते हैं कि thus we can thus speak of the Indian state or the Nepali state etc. Indian state has a democratic form of government. तो हम क्या बोलेंगे कि भारत के राज्य में, भारत में इंडियन स्टेट में क्या है, डेमोक्रेटिक फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट है. द गवर्नमेंट इज वन पार्ट ऑफ द स्टेट. ठीक है. And the state refers to more than just the government and cannot be used interchangeably. You should not use government in place of state and state in place of government. You should not say कि state is corrupt. State cannot get corrupted. Government can get corrupt. Government will change, state will remain as it is. State can be democratic, state can be monarchic, state can be authoritarian. ये वर्ड सुनते होगे, state is authoritarian. Means state में इतने strict rules हैं, like Saudi Arabia. So state has very strict rules and it can punish its people easily. So state is authoritarian. Fundamental rights. Section on fundamental rights has often been referred to as the conscience of Indian Constitution. The fourth feature is fundamental rights. The conscience of Indian. इसको इस तरह ये क्वेश्चन डायरेक्ट आता है एग्जाम में कि व्हाट इज नोन एज द conscience of Indian Constitution. So fundamental right is the conscience of Indian Constitution. What fundamental rights do? Fundamental rights protect citizen against the arbitrary and absolute exercise of power by the state, not government, state. State कोई भी arbitrary और absolute power नहीं यूज कर सकती. Arbitrary means like what happens in a monarchy or where there is a king. King can any day say कि okay आज अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, चलो आज से सबका सांस लेना बंद. मतलब he can pass law कि now nobody will eat rice. So authoritarian decision, arbitrary absolute exercise of power. You can do this and you cannot do that. You cannot drive car. Women cannot wear jeans. Such kind of arbitrary and absolute exercise of power से बचाता है क्या? Fundamental rights. Monica is saying, sir, that is the difference between state like MP and other state. So Monica कह रहा हूँ, sorry Mona, I cannot understand your question. Is it not clear कि what does state means and how it is different from the state Bihar, UP, MP? Clear नहीं है? If you have any doubt, you can raise your hand and ask. इस doubt में मत रहो. The Constitution. हाँ बताओ.
हेलो सर.
हाय
सर मेरा डाउट है कि सर दो वर्ड यूज होते हैं, एक स्टेट फॉर किसी स्टेट के लिए, एमपी और इसके लिए, और एक और वर्ड यूज होता है ना स्टेट, कि इसमें कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में
वर्ड एक ही है, स्टेट. मीन स्पेलिंग में कोई अंतर नहीं है. स्टेट जब हम बोलते हैं बिहार स्टेट तो वहां वो मीनिंग होता है, पर जब हम इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देखो, तुम वो कॉन्टेक्स्ट समझना होगा. जब हम सिर्फ कह रहे हैं कि स्टेट, एब्सोल्यूट पावर ऑफ स्टेट, तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि एब्सोल्यूट पावर ऑफ योगी जी और एब्सोल्यूट पावर ऑफ चौहान. इट्स मीनिंग द स्टेट एब्सोल्यूट पावर ऑफ ऑल द गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट, सेंट्रल, लेजिस्लेटिव, जितना भी जो कुछ भी मशीनरी है वो सबका कंबाइंड पावर. ठीक है. जहां आपको ये स्टेट वाला स्टेट का जिक्र होगा, यानी यूपी एमपी का जिक्र होगा, वहां पे वो स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन्ड होगा कि ये बिहार के स्टेट के लिए ऐसा है, द स्टेट ऑफ बिहार. जहां ऐसा नहीं लिखा है वहां पे आप समझो कि दिस इज रेफरिंग टू द ओवरऑल स्टेट। और नहीं
Okay.
तो जनरली यहाँ पे स्टेट्स लिखा रहेगा कि अगर मान लो सेंटर स्टेट की बात हो रही है तो इट विल राइट कि स्टेट्स आर डूइंग दिस और स्टेट्स आर नॉट अग्रीइंग टू दिस।
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
देवाशीष बताइए।
Hello, sir.
हम्म।
Sir, can we combine judiciary in states?
हाँ, सब कुछ मैंने तो बोला, एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग इज अंडर स्टेट।
Sir, all the administrative power या फिर सर
सब
geographical location को भी इसमें combine किया जा सकता है।
सब कुछ, ज्योग्राफी, पीपल, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, लॉज, इंस्टीट्यूशंस, एवरीथिंग इज स्टेट।
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Divya is asking something. Can you explain the example of guaranteeing rights against other individuals? We will come to those discussion, Divya. This is class 8. So we will have again, we will have to read fundamental rights again as a chapter in class 11th. So अभी बस ये basic introduction है, तो चिंता नहीं करना है. Last line is given. The Constitution also guarantees the right of individuals against the state as well as against other हाँ, so wait, मैं अभी इस line पे आया नहीं, I will certainly explain this. How it is written here. It says, देखो Constitution क्या कह रहा है? It guarantees the right of individual against the state. This is very important and interesting to know. Fundamental right को क्या बोलते हैं? Fundamental right actually puts restriction upon the state. What state can do or what they can't do, उस पे एक बहुत restriction लगा देता है. Like state cannot stop you from freedom of speech. It cannot stop you from freedom of moving from any place to any other place. State cannot infringe or state cannot say कि you will not have access to judiciary. So ये बहुत सारे limitation लगाता है. Similarly, state also put restriction upon individuals like untouchability. हमने पढ़ा है. So state says कि nobody can practice untouchability with each other. So if individuals are also practicing untouchability, they will be punished because our constitution says so. तो क्या कहता है कि अपने राइट, इंडिविजुअल के राइट्स को बचाता है दोनों से, स्टेट से भी और इंडिविजुअल्स से भी. ठीक है, क्लियर है दिव्या? Smo is saying, sir, can we say state means India? No. See, India, ये बहुत एक बड़ा debate है in itself. There is a term called nation and there is a term called state. And there is a very fine difference between the two. हाँ, Indian as a state, हमने तो discuss किया ही कि India, we can say India state or Nepal state. So whatever is there in India as a political entity, we say it as Indian state. लेकिन नेशन के बारे में we will discuss again in class 11th polity book. Wait for it. पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी में पूरा एक चैप्टर ही है नेशनलिज्म, तो वहां फिर डिफरेंशिएट करेंगे अगेन कि व्हाट इज डिफरेंस बिटवीन नेशन एंड स्टेट. So constitution therefore also guarantees the right of minorities against the majority. We'll see constitution has many provisions for this. क्या कह रहा है कि the first objective is that every citizen must be in position to claim those rights. Fundamental rights का main objective क्या है? The first objective is that it is available to everyone. Everybody can claim those rights. कि now I have a right to speak freely. I have the right to practice my religion freely. So it is available to everyone. And the second is that these rights must be binding upon every authority that has power to make laws. A fundamental rights का मतलब क्या है कि if there is a fundamental right in place, it is superior. It is above everyone and anyone. So no matter how popular a prime minister becomes, or no matter how revered a president is, or no matter how powerful judiciary becomes, all of them have to abide by what fundamental rights says. Now there are some fundamental rights given here: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, culture, and right to constitutional remedies. We will discuss about all these again in class 11th, and will give you, as I promised you, I will give you a mnemonic to remember all these fundamental rights. Don't worry. Then we have DPSPs, Directive Principles of State Policy. फिर से पढ़ो इसको, डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स. डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स क्या है? द प्रिंसिपल्स दैट डायरेक्ट और दैट गिव गाइडेंस कि आपको क्या करना चाहिए. So these are directive principles of what? Of state policy. Here state doesn't mean UP or MP or Bihar. It doesn't saying ki the policies that state should follow. It's saying that the policies that state means overall system, central government, state government, everybody should be following. Actually, in Constitution, in Article 13, we have a detailed discussion on what a state means. Discuss करेंगे जब clause by clause का भी discussion किया तो don't worry again. So ये क्या है? DPSPs है. There is a minute difference between fundamental rights and DPSPs. देखो fundamental rights क्या बोलता है कि there are certain things that every citizen must have, like everybody must get educated. तो हमने fundamental duty में डाल दिया, sorry, fundamental rights में डाल दिया कि anybody who is between the age of 6 to 14 must get education. So it becomes the duty of the government to provide this. And if government will not provide this fundamental duty, a citizen can go to judiciary and complain against the government, and then government will be forced to give this. Similarly, if government is making some law because of which somebody's right to practice any religion is hampered, they can again go to the judiciary, and then government has to ensure freedom of religion. तो ये है fundamental rights का process. इसमें everything that is written in fundamental rights that must be given to the people. If any of this right is not provided, anytime you can go to the judiciary. Now you know, एक बहुत मजेदार इंसिडेंट सुनाता हूँ, ये शायद तुमको और क्लैरिटी देगा कि what fundamental right means. Here, under fundamental rights to freedom, we have a fundamental right to life. We will discuss that in detail. So Article 21 में क्या है? Fundamental right to life. This article says that everybody has a fundamental right to live with dignity. Not just life, but right with life with dignity. So क्या क्या कोर्ट ने बहुत सारा इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन होते होते अभी इसमें एक ये ऐड हो गया कि राइट टू इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. Right to electricity is a fundamental right. ठीक है? So that means कि everybody must have access to electricity. इसमें बहुत सारे क्लॉज अब जुड़ गए, लाइट राइट टू फ्री एयर एंड वगैरह वगैरह, काफी ब्रॉड हो गया है. देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ डिस्कशन अराउंड दिस, बट बाद में देखेंगे फाइन ट्यून. सो ऐसा एक लॉ है इसमें, राइट टू इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. सो we as a family, we, because my father is in service, so we do not stay at our ancestral village. There we made a new house and we got electricity connection and all, but since nobody knows, so bill is pending for very long time, and they are sending this exorbitant amount of bill जो कोई use भी नहीं कर रहा है, but still a huge amount of bill is coming. So once in a while we go there, like year, साल में एक बार, 6 महीने में एक बार ऐसा कोई जाता है. I saw the bill once. It's like huge. 7-8 हजार का ऐसा बिल भेज दिया, कोई रहता नहीं है. So I wrote a mail कि like देखो भाई ऐसा ऐसा है. Right to elect, right to electricity is my fundamental right. नहीं बोलो तो इन्होंने को पहले तो मैंने बोला कि भाई आके अपना बिल चेक कर लो, it's not correct. And I was like mentally prepared. If they will cut somehow, if they cut my electricity, I have the power to directly go to Supreme Court. I don't need to go to my local judiciary or file a case against government or Supreme High Court. I can directly go to Supreme Court because my fundamental right to electricity has been breached, because the electricity department has denied electricity because, and there was like because of, in spite of any of my own mistake. तो ये पावर है राइट, फंडामेंटल राइट्स का, कि इफ whenever your fundamental right is breached, you can directly go to Supreme Court and you can claim from the judiciary कि भाई government is not providing me this. And many a times nowadays you will feel कि many cases are filed. कोविड के भी टाइम में सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो जजमेंट आया, दैट इज ऑल्सो बेस्ड अपॉन सच इंटरप्रिटेशंस कि भाई कोविड के टाइम में dignity, even in death people should have dignity, and that's how Supreme Court said, provide oxygen cylinders and bring all these things, do all these things, give compensation and all. So this is fundamental right, but it's different from, what is the difference with DPSP? DPSP has certain things that constitution makers thought that India should do, like bringing equality among people, providing judicial help to everyone, eradicating alcohol consumption, saving cow or other milk animals. Such kind of DPSP laws are there. These are very progressive goals, but these are not binding upon the government. ये फोर्स नहीं करते हैं गवर्नमेंट को कि यू मस्ट इम्प्लीमेंट दीज थिंग्स. दीज थिंग्स आर जस्ट सजेस्टिव कि गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट शुड प्रोवाइड दीज थिंग्स इन टाइम, धीरे धीरे आगे जाके दे देना चाहिए. ठीक है, समझ में आया डिफरेंस? जैसे सर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल अगर ज्यादा हो जाए तो लोग कनेक्शन कट कर देते हैं. देखो, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल अगर ज्यादा हो जाए और तुम नहीं पे करो तो कट कर देंगे, दे हैव दैट राइट. बट इफ इट्स नॉट योर फॉल्ट, इफ यू आर बीइंग पेड, लाइक मैंने उनको कंप्लेन कर दिया है, ठीक है, एंड दे एक्सेप्टेड कि यस देयर इज अ मिस्टेक इन द बिल. दे केम एंड दे चेक्ड, दे एक्सेप्टेड, बट they have not taken any remedial step. So they're still sending me those bills with fine and all, and since we are not there, nobody is paying the bill now. But it's going on, it's like it's kept on piling. They have accepted that the bill is wrong. अब अगर वो मेरा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कट करते हैं, then I can go to court कि भाई ये तो नहीं करना था, इट्स नॉट माई फॉल्ट. लेकिन अब मैं पैसा ही नहीं पे करूं, बोले कि नहीं मुझे बिजली चाहिए, ये तो नहीं हो सकता है. एंड द फिफ्थ एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट वन इज सेकुलरिज्म. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट, मजेदार है, इसको पढ़ो. A secular state is one in which the state does not officially promote any one religion as the state religion. Now we see in our country, like government make arrangements in West Bengal, government make arrangement for Durga Puja. In Maharashtra, government make provisions for Shivaji Jayanti and all, Ganesh Puja. हमारे यहाँ बिहार में छठ पूजा में गवर्नमेंट स्पेंड lakhs crores of rupees. During Kailash Yatra, government makes a lot of spending. But it's saying the government should not officially promote any religion. So isn't it counter ethical to what constitution suggests? Hmm? Panna is saying yes. What about others? Is it against the constitution doing all these things? These things are not against the constitution. These things are also not against this line. It's saying that government should not promote any one religion as the state religion. So government, when spending money on Durga Puja, Chhat or Kailas, it's not saying ki you just follow this. Government also give Hajj subsidies. Government also spend money on organization of or possessions of Muharram. Government also spend money on the day of where Christmas is celebrated. Government put a lot of machinery in place so that everything went smooth, goes smooth. So the secularism का मतलब ये नहीं है हमारे यहाँ कि do not promote any religion, but you should not promote any one religion, and that too as a official state religion. कि India में everybody is Hindu or everybody is Muslim. That should not be done. Now on this we have a complete chapter. It's much more complicated than what you think. So just wait for time. Now, NCRT itself is saying, and that's why you should not be worried, that different features of Indian Constitution outlined above are not easy to grasp. So don't worry too much about this for the moment. This is what I was repeating. ठीक है? Do not worry too much. Now the most controversial issue, secularism. How many of you think that India is a अच्छा chat box open करने दो. How many of you think believe in secularism? Should India be a secular country? अरे chat box open है, you can send it to everyone. So I think I have framed the question in a wrong way. Now everybody, all of you will say you believe in secularism. So okay, इसको बंद करते हैं. Stop this question. Cancel. Question cancel. How many of you believe that India is a secular country? Like we actually follow secularism. Indian government follows secularism. India is a secular country. In practice, I'm not saying about theory. I'm saying in practice, are we secular as a government policy? ये कौन है आईफोन 13 प्रो वाला? बताओ, मास्टर साहब इतना गरीब है और बच्चा लोग आईफोन 13 प्रो, मतलब इस क्लास का भी तौहीन है। आईफोन 13 प्रो के साथ एक क्लास करना 1500 का, उतने का तुम्हारा कवर भी नहीं आता होगा। आई थिंक इस क्लास में people spend more money on the data. People spend more money on the data than the actual price of the class. 4 महीने क्लास करने में तुमको ज्यादा पैसा खर्च करना पड़ता होगा। Anyway, don't take it to the heart. Just okay. एनीवे, सेकुलरिज्म, व्हाट डू यू गाइस थिंक? कंटिन्यू करें या थोड़ा सा आके वापस से शुरू करें? बहुत थोड़ा सा कंटेंट हैवी है, हिटलर एंड जीविश स्टेट और बहुत कुछ पढ़ना है इसमें. लेट्स टेक अ ब्रेक. ठीक है, let's take a break and come back at 3, and we will continue our discussion on secularism. And next topic, parliament, is very important. Like मैं कहता हूँ, but I know कि many of you will not come, and I don't know what you will do, but see, this chapter is very very important. बहुत कुछ fact है इसमें और बहुत कुछ समझने वाली चीजें हैं. So leave it at your own risk. We'll come back at 3. Okay, bye. पैसा वसूल हो गया तुम लोगों का? 1500 तो वसूल हो चुका होगा अभी तक. लाइक आई टॉट 1500 लाख मैंने पढ़ा दिया अभी कि नहीं पढ़ा दिया? 11th मैच वाले से पूछ रहा हूँ. उस पुराने वालों का तो बहुत ज्यादा हो गया, वो अभी ओवर चल रहा है. हाँ, नेक्स्ट सेशन at 3.